What to expect when going from one job to another job. Now, this is highly likely for any of you that get into a skilled trade, blue collar apprenticeship, like the lineman apprenticeship, a construction apprenticeship, iron workers, electrician, plumbers, HVAC, any one of these skilled trades. There are different avenues inside these trades. You have residential, commercial. In the lineman trade, you have transmission, distribution, underground, overhead. Ironworkers, you have structural, scaffolding, you have fencing, you have rebar tying. You have these different avenues that there's a good chance that inside of the apprenticeship that you are going to be sent from one job doing one specific task to another job doing a completely different task. And you might not have any idea of what you're going to be doing to the next job you get sent to. In this video, I'm going to kind of explain how it's operated in the lineman apprenticeship because that is my trade that I work in. That's what I'm more familiar with, right? Welcome back to another Blue Collar EDU video. Today's video, I want to talk about the transfer cycle. So getting transferred from one job to another and what to kind of expect. Like I was saying, I'll use the lineman trade for example. Inside the lineman trade, you are going to have to get, inside the union lineman apprenticeship, you're going to have to get X amount of hours in transmission, distribution, overhead, underground. You're going to have to get hot hours. Some places require you to get substation hours, groundman hours, or grunt hours. For the Northwest apprenticeship, for example, that's the one I went through. We needed to get like 1,600 transmission hours. So I mean 1,600 hours working on a transmission job, working on transmission structures, doing transmission work. You have distribution, you'll have overhead and underground. Overhead, as you can see driving on the road, you're gonna see the overhead distribution lines, and then there's a lot of underground too. There's underground work and you're supposed to get like 1,800 hours of underground hours. You're supposed to get like 1,800, I believe it is, overhead distribution hours. And you're supposed to get 1,400 groundman hours, which is just like hours of you being in the trade. We had to get 200 hours of substation, so working in or around a substation. And there might be one or two other ones. But as you can see, what I'm talking about is you're supposed to get specific hours in different parts of the trade. So going through an apprenticeship, you have a good idea of what to expect once you become a journeyman and you have some knowledge and experience in each one of those different avenues. So once you become a journeyman, if you want to go experience transmission, well, at least you've already have touched it. You already have 1,800 hours doing transmission or distribution overhead or underground. And it's the same when it comes to iron workers, electricians, HVAC techs, plumbers, name any trade. There are different avenues that you can go down that are inside of an apprenticeship you're going to be taught. You're going to be educated on. You're probably supposed to get hours in. If you get into one of these apprenticeships, and I don't know how far as it goes when it comes to union versus non-union, my more so education is on how the union apprenticeships are operated. The apprenticeships are great, well, because they want you to get familiar with every part of that trade. Now, it's impossible to teach every single aspect of the trade. That's just not going to happen in a 7,000 hour apprenticeship. That's 3.5, 4 years. That barely even scratches the surface of most trades. If you get into an ironworks apprenticeship or lineman apprenticeship or electrician's apprenticeship, you're going to be sent from one job to a different job doing a different kind of task that you might not be familiar with. And this is something that you don't need to necessarily worry about, but guys, apprentices will worry about this. And the reason is because, well, you're an apprentice and you are going sent to a job that you've never done that type of work before. I had this brought up to me because there was an apprentice asking me about what he should expect or what he should do to better prepare himself because he knew he was getting transferred from doing a highline transmission job. So that's what he's been doing for the last 6-7 months. So that's what he was familiar with doing. And he was getting transferred to a distribution crew doing underground work, and he's never done distribution underground work before. So he was kind of worried and he was like, what do I expect or what should I do to better prepare myself? And this is what I always tell somebody asking me that question is be honest. Last thing we want if we get an apprentice on our crew who has never done the type of work that we're doing is for them to act like a know-it-all. Oh, I've been doing, line work for 2 years. I know how this stuff works, but you don't. You've never done it before. You've never touched it. You have no experience. You don't know anything actually. The best thing you can do is just be honest. First day you show up, just say, I've never touched this before. I've never done this type of work before. I've never seen it done before. This is my first time ever seeing it or doing it. lay it all out for me. I'm here to learn, I'm here to work. If you can teach me, I'm going to be able to pick it up and I'm going to be able to utilize what you teach me and become a better apprentice so I can learn this specific job that we're doing. And now that's the best way to do it. But the key is you have to be able to learn and pick these things up. You can't say, yeah, oh yeah, teach me and I'm gonna learn. Well, you better be able to learn and maintain and retain information that you were taught to, because our duty as the journeyman is to teach the apprentice. That's what we're supposed to do, right? You're the apprentice, you're the one up and coming. You are the one that needs to be taught. It's our duty to teach you. So most of us are more willing and able to want to teach you, but you got to be able to learn and retain information. And if you don't, that's what ticks a lot of guys off. You'll be taught 1, 2 times, maybe 3 times if you're lucky, of how to do something. Let's use, for example, terminating an underground primary elbow. Now, for any of you listening or watching this, you might not know what that is, but you know the square transformer boxes outside your house or whatever. It's a termination on underground cable that plugs into that transformer, and that's kind of how the whole thing works underground. Not to get too much specific details, but if you've never terminated, if you've never built one of those before, it's your duty as an apprentice to be completely honest and be like, I've never done this before. Can you show me? Well, I'm going to show you step by step of how to do it, but you better learn and actually figure out and retain the information that I teach you of how to do that specific job. So I'm going to show you how to terminate an elbow 2 times, 3 times if you're lucky. And after the 3rd time, if you still don't know how to do it, you're going to probably kind of have a hard time, because if you're not able to pick these things up and learn and retain this information, you're just kind of a hard time altogether. The important thing is to be honest, let your crew know like you're not familiar with the type of work that you're doing. Let them know the experience that you have had. Last 6, 7, 8 months, you've been working doing transmission. Let the crew know, hey, I've been doing transmission work for the last 8 months of my apprenticeship. I've never done this kind of work before, but I'm willing to learn. And if you can teach me, I will be able to retain the information. That's the best way to go about it. Now, getting transferred from job to job, it's your duty to be able to learn. And that's the key note that you have to take away from this is it might be kind of worrisome. It might be kind of nerve-wracking to get transferred to a completely different field line of work inside the trade you're working in. You got to be willing to ask questions, be honest, and learn and retain information. So this goes for, like I said, any trade. Electrician, for example, wiring up a commercial building, the different kind of code and specs you might use on a big commercial building may very well be different than how it is in a residential building. It's up to you to, if you get transferred from one job to a different job and they're doing a different scope of work, you just gotta ask questions, be honest. From my experience in the trade as an apprentice and then now being a journeyman for the last few years, when I get an apprentice, the best thing I can look for or I can hear from that apprentice is, hey, I've never done this before. I'm not familiar with this kind of work. Can you show me? If you teach me, I will be able to retain and learn, use the information you taught me. I'm here to ask questions, and that's exactly what you need to do. That's really simple as it can be. So don't get too worrisome. Don't get too nervous. If you're going to be getting transferred, it can be nerve-wracking, but just be honest, ask questions, and that's the best route that you can take. So hopefully you can learn from this video what you could expect being transferred from one job to a different job inside of an apprenticeship, and kind of what you can do to help break up that nervousness and help that transition a little bit easier for your sake. With Blue Collar EDU, I'm here to expose, teach, educate you about blue collar career opportunities and things that help you get started in the skilled trade. With that being said, I'll catch you on the next one.